The Great Dixter plant fairs are a wonderful place to buy plants, often unusual plants, and they're also where the horticultural professionals and amateur garden lovers connect. I recently went to the autumn Great Dixter plant fair to talk to one of the Great Dixter team, Linda Jones, about the plant fairs. As I parked my car in the beautiful Sussex fields, I could hear the car park attendants talking about plants. The Great Dixter plant fairs were started by Fergus Garrett, CEO of Great Dixter and head gardener, to enable the horticultural community to give something back. It also helps smaller nurseries reach a wider public, although some of the nurseries exhibiting at the plant fairs do also exhibit at the large RHS Chelsea, RHS Hampton Court shows. The fairs are a fundraiser for the Christopher Lloyd Bursary scheme. Christopher Lloyd was the very famous plantsman who made Great Dixter into one of the most internationally influential gardens. He constantly challenged gardening principles, and he was famous for his dramatic use of colour and his rather rebellious attitude to gardening. Fergus Garrett continues to run Great Dixter Gardens in the Christopher Lloyd style, constantly challenging, experimenting, educating and involving other people. The fairs are a fundraiser for the Christopher Lloyd Bursary, which enables horticulture students to travel and study, and then they come back and they give talks on what they've found out. So the whole thing is cyclical, and the fairs are run entirely by volunteers. Horticulture students from Kew Gardens or the RHS Gardens or the Botanic Gardens all around Britain come for the weekend to volunteer and help out at the fairs, and they spend their nights sleeping on the floors in the main Great Dixter house, and Fergus Garrett cooks them a meal on Saturday evenings. So it's not surprising that when you go and visit gardens all over the world, you'll often find that some of the best gardens have some kind of Great Dixter connection. Fergus Garrett has now become one of the most recognisable names in horticulture, but he helps out parking the cars, somewhat to the surprise of some of the visitors to the Great Dixter plant fairs. I overheard one or two people saying, "Was that Fergus Garrett helping us to park our car?" And the answer is yes. And the car parks overlook the most glorious Sussex countryside. So who goes to the fairs? One stallholder described it as people who love their gardens and who want to find some rare and unusual plants. But then he said there's also the plant nerds who want that one plant that no one else has got. And then he looked around and he said, but actually there's just a lot of people who really just love their gardens. I wouldn't call myself particularly knowledgeable about plants. I regard myself as an amateur gardener. So I think that the best way to shop in a plant fair like Great Dixter is to go up to the nurseries and say, I've got this particular problem. What plants can you suggest? At the moment I'm trying to plant a dry, shady corner. So I went round a couple of stalls and said, what have you got for dry shade? And I've come away with 4 different kinds of plants. An unusual hellebore, something very unusual called a false syningia, I don't think I even know how to pronounce it, it's so unusual. An epimedium, which has some lovely autumn colour, as well as beautiful spring flowers. And an upright wild ginger, which is also quite rare. So I feel that I've got something special for my dry, shady corner. The stalls at Great Dixter are all very recyclable and sustainable. They're made of chestnut poles, corrugated iron, hessian sacks, straw, moss, and people sit around to eat their meals on straw bales. So the whole fair is very sustainable. The plant nurseries, the volunteers and the visitors all come from all parts of the United Kingdom to the Great Dixter plant fairs, and also from Northern Europe and perhaps even further afield. There are many people from Northern France and Holland and Scotland and Ireland. Entrance to the plant fair also gives you entrance to the Great Dixter House and Gardens, and they have got a wonderfully English country style. The Great Dixter House is actually 3 houses put together in the 1920s by Christopher Lloyd's parents. The original 15th century farmhouse had an ancient yeoman's hall house dismantled from somewhere else in Kent and added onto it, and then the famous architect Edwin Lutyens combined the 2 houses by adding some 20th century harmonious extensions. And the gardens are some of the most famous gardens in the world. Christopher Lloyd was particularly well known for succession planting, which is the art of making one border look fantastic for as long as possible during the year. And so the long border at Great Dixter is always worth visiting. And you can always pick up tips for your garden. This year I found my plants flopping over onto the lawn a lot, so I was interested to see this rustic 5-barred gate effect holding the plants back. It might work in my garden, it might be a bit too rustic because I live in a townhouse, but it's interesting to see it. There are links in the description below to Great Dixter House and Gardens, to the fairs and to some of the nurseries you've seen in this video. And if you've enjoyed this, please do hit like, because then I'll know you'd like to hear more about plants and perhaps about English country style. And if you'd like tips, ideas and inspiration for your garden, then do subscribe to the Middlesized Garden YouTube channel. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.